Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Season 1 of Dangerous Liaisons from Starz. And this is a prequel to the novel and the film that focuses on a pair of scheming ex-lovers who attempt to exploit others by using the power of seduction. And I have to get this right off my chest. The biggest problem that I have with this show is that in the synopsis there, it says seduction. So you would assume that it's sexy and it's steamy and it hooks you in to that kind of thing. It feels very mooted, and just nothing seems as intense and alluring and seductive as the show thinks it's being. And that's a challenge because you're betting down a whole lot of your show on being able to use that and really try to capture a spark for the audience to believe in. And it doesn't really work out so well for the show. It always feels a little cold and distant, and that's not good for something that's supposed to make you feel that way and really pull you in. So from that perspective, that's a big lacking thing, which I guess you could get past that, even though it's supposed to be one of the points of the whole entire show, if there's strong characters and story. And I feel like the story is interesting enough. It is about two young people from lower class society, especially Camille, played by Alice Englert, who Englert I think does a fantastic job here. I think she's doing some strong work in terms of what she's trying to portray and trying to play this game. And you know, you have her trying to seduce her way into high society. She winds up making this strong connection with Leslie Manville's character towards the beginning, who's not long for the show, and then winds up connecting with her widower, played by Michael Eckelaton, who is Roose Bolton from Game of Thrones. And, like, I think he does fine here, but he's not particularly interesting. I feel like the most interesting characters you have here is Camille, who does a fantastic job, and then the majordome, Hakeem Kai Kazim's character, who's mysterious and performs so well. And I think he does a fantastic job in this series, because a lot of the series is them at odds, because who really runs the house is this man, and he's very suspicious of Camille and what she's doing, and their dynamic is the most interesting part of the show as it evolves through and where it takes them towards the end of this season. And, you know, all this high society chess gaming that's going on here, some of it's interesting, some of it's, you know, it's like been there, done that. And since it's not as poignant as it could have been with the tension and that specifically the sexual tension, it comes off pretty flat at times and doesn't always work. But I do think Englert does a fantastic job here. I think she brings a lot to this series. And I think Carice Van Houten, who is Melisandre from Game of Thrones, that's interesting. Got those Game of Thrones people. I think she's an interesting piece to this puzzle as well, because there's a lot of characters here, there's a lot of moving pieces, and I feel like this show is only as interesting as whichever piece is on screen at the time. And it's Van Houten, it's Kai Kazim, it's Englert. I think they're the most interesting pieces here, and when they're playing, this show can be interesting. But when it's trying to do other things and look at other pieces that feel underdeveloped, the show could get a little boring. I think this show struggles with that hour length because it always feels like every episode is padded with extra stuff in it to keep this to like, ooh, this is an hour drama, but it doesn't need to be. Like, something that, and this is a completely different show, but, you know, I've been watching this every Sunday along with Tulsa King. That show ranges from, like, 35 to 50 minutes. It depends on the episode. It depends on what it's trying to say. And I can appreciate that and not being force-fed like hour-long episodes every week just to make sure that this is like an hour-long drama. And it does feel overlong in those ways. I think there's enough interesting pieces, and they've all been lined up properly for the end of this first season for me to be potentially interested to see what they do in the second season. So oddly, I'm still down to see what they do in this second season if it gets it. Starz canceled it, but they are shopping the show. I think this probably will be the last we'll see of this show, unfortunately, because to be perfectly frank, it was getting its most interesting the last episode of the show, where it could go forward, and which is interesting enough, towards what the actual book is and what the film shows, which I'm interested to check out this film now, so we'll see how that goes. But in the end, I think this is, unless you're really into these period kinds of series, I don't think this offers enough to really engage you for a whole 8-hour-long episodes. So you might want to pass on this one unless this really is your thing. But those are my thoughts on Dangerous Liaisons Season 1. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some TV. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.